And there is also need to reassess the 30% of the NNPC, as I earlier pointed out. But one of the key vital aspects of this directive is to bring about public investment as a share of GDP standard at least low at 5.0%, largely due to inadequate public saving. Joining me on the show to explain some of this development, which is quite very vital, is Sanya Adedokun, a former technical advisor at Niger Delta Power Holding, and also a senior colleague in the media industry, happened to have managed Tribune Northern Bureau in Abuja here. So he'll be joining me shortly so that we can have a clear understanding of this directive and how it will really affect Nigeria economy going forward. So he'll be joining me shortly so that we can have an understanding of.
Okay, sir. Yes. What I was talking about is that we needed that policy as soon as yesterday, because there seems to be fire on the mountain right now. The federal government appears to be cash strapped. Yeah, because if they are not, 3 budgets will not be running concurrently, and they seem not to have enough money to fund the budget. So they are being careful, and so therefore we need money. The federal government needs to rake in money and plug loopholes as soon as possible. You know, all these parastatals, money-making agencies, these government-owned enterprises, GOE, they are supposed to make money for the federation account so that everybody can benefit. But the way it is now, people who are in charge of those bodies seem to be the only ones enjoying the benefits against what it's supposed to be. And so they make money. Once they make money, they spend it. They just look for any opportunity, any loophole to just waste money. I'm going to call it waste. They just waste money. And as soon as they do that, at the end of the year, what they come back to tell the National Assembly is that they have spent the money and they are only refunding whatever is left to Treasury. For instance, you have some agencies who made 2 billion naira, for instance, as an example, and at the end of the year, they will come back and say they have 10 million naira left over. So what do they do with the rest? They will find something to say. So now it is the time for federal government to tighten the belt, plug the loopholes, and so that money can come to Treasury and things can be done properly. These are some of the ways to also reduce corruption in government.
Exactly. Talking about reducing corruption, but there is one aspect of this directive that some people are already raising concern. There are some agencies that have legal framework that allow them to do that deduction and that revenue retention. For instance, Federal Inland Revenue, the law is binding on it to have about 7% in terms of deduction. Similarly, also Custom also have a law that guarantees to have 4% deduction when it comes to cost of collecting revenue. But how do you see this playing out with all the legal framework that are supporting this deduction and the directive that the federal government is bringing up at this point in time?
It's actually the other way around. Customs collect 4%, while NCS collects 7%.
Exactly.
Because the collection of customs is much smaller than that of the Federal Inland Revenue Service. But for you to know, even at that, they still keep complaining. But let me assure you that there is no law that gave them that power. There is no law at all. You know, because it just came from nowhere, out of the blues. I think around when Madam Ifweko was still the executive chairman of Federal Inland Revenue Service.
Exactly.
And then they were doing, reforms. And then there was this argument that FIRS needed to have some independent revenue to be able to carry out its function properly, and so that it can make more money for the federation. And it was accepted by fiat by the Federal Executive Council. In fact, some of us have always argued and written that it is wrong for that thing to happen, because the Federal Inland Revenue Service, the Nigerian Customs Service, all those agencies, including what is it called now? This former DPR, I think, what is it called? They call it a particular name now.
NUPRI and NFDPRE.
Exactly. Thank you very much. All those agencies do not have. They are part of the reason why the federal government, why the Constitution gives the federal government 52% of federation revenue. Those are part of the reasons, because the federal government manages the army, it manages the police, it manages customs, it manages FIRS, it manages all those other agencies. Those are the reasons why the federal government got that large percentage of the federation account. So why will the state, because we have always argued, why will the state, what were the governors thinking to allow the federal government to continue to abdicate its responsibility, begin to collect more from federation account? Because if we say officially the federal government collects 52%, it means that right now the federal government is collecting much more than 52%, because many of its functions it has removed and put it as burden on other tiers of government. So why is federal government still retaining 52%? So in essence, federal government is supposed to be funding DPRS, federal government is supposed to be funding police, and you also remember the federal government collects 1% of federation account to also fund the police.
Exactly.
Yes, so federal government also take money to also fund the military, to fund defense from the federation account, aside from the 52% that it collects officially for those functions. Census is back on the reason. So if federal government is collecting that amount of money, why is it now checking its responsibility? So to cut it short, there is no law that gives the federal government the right to collect money on behalf of FIRS, that gives federal government backing to collect money for Nigerian Customs Service. No, it was a decision of Federal Executive Council, and I've always wondered why governors have not resisted. In fact, I know that some governors have gone to court concerning the 1% police fund that is deducting. Yeah, but I don't know why they have not gone to court to challenge these other ones. The federation account says the federal government will collect 52%, states will collect 26% or something, while the local government will collect 22%. Meanwhile, 2% is also for ecological funds. So these things have been there, and those are the reasons why federal government is collecting. For instance, at the end of the year, do you know that after everything, FIRS still have surplus? So who collects the surplus from FIRS? Is it returned to federation account, or is it returned to consolidated revenue fund of the federal government? These are some of the contradictions that we have in our so-called federal system. You know, those who are concerned are not even bothered. It is people who are ordinary citizens like me, like you, like some of our other colleagues, who are really concerned. But I believe that once the governors and the local government chairman, once they have their own, they are satisfied, because it's enough for them to take home, to do whatever they like with it, and act as if they have one garage. You know how MURTW people, you know how they take over garages?
Exactly.
It's in a gangster manner. So that's our election right now. People just take over government and begin to do whatever they like with it. They just spend our money the way they like. Look at what they decided to do yesterday at the Federal Executive Council, for instance. It's a diversion, but it's part of it. The federal government is now saying that they want to build garages. They want to build car parks. Can you imagine in 60 states of the federation? And we are complaining about hunger, we are complaining about poverty. What's the business of federal government to be building garages for states? When people are complaining, when even the federal government is complaining that it doesn't have enough money to spend.
Exactly.
What kind of nonsense is that?
I think to really understand that aspect, we need to also look at the gains that the President Bola Ahmed Tinubu put out about this directive. One of the things that the president said was that he is to help the government to be able to enhance public savings. You know, the question has been around, where is the first subsidy money that have been realized before, and all these savings here and there. But from your own understanding, do you think this directive will really help to gather and enhance public savings, as the president has said?
Yeah, that's exactly my point. That I fully support the directive. The only fear that I have is that we've always had directives in Nigeria. We've always had policies. I remember that a few years ago, during the regime of late President Buhari. I remember that the Minister of Finance said it during one of our budget briefings that all the agencies that were owing the Federation account that had not remitted what they were supposed to remit since 1999, that they were going to deduct it from their allocation. Has it happened up to today? It has not happened. It has not. So it's not about giving directives. I remember even during the private years when Madam, what's her name now? The lady that is now the DG of
WTO
budget office.
Doctor.
The budget office. You know,
okay.
When she was in charge of, I think, is it due process or they call it something in the Federal Ministry of Finance? She came up with an idea that things will now be normalized. For instance, if a government agency is traveling, if an officer from the ministry is traveling, the money that they will collect for air ticket fund.
Exactly. That extra cost
is different from what another person will collect from the same ministry. And so she said that, she said that the department was going to come up with a system whereby everything will be streamlined, and then they will also be collecting the what do you call it now, commission on behalf of the federal government from agencies, from airlines directly. Has it been done? It has not been done. So it's not about saying that we want to do. We have always been wanting to do in Nigeria. We should move away from wanting to do from wishes. Because if wishes are our horses, even beggars will ride.
Exactly.
We should move ahead to implementation. It's about implementation. It's not about saying that we want to do this, we want to do that. You understand?
Exactly.
I'm sorry. I really believe. I only thought that President Tinubu would have moved us faster than he is doing. He has done something. I'm not saying that he has not done anything, but I think that we could have moved faster because of the way he came and because of what we saw in Lagos. But it appears that he has been greatly hampered. Maybe probably by the politics of 2027, because they are not threatening him that he's not allowing them to do whatever they like. So maybe he's also that consideration is also weighing him down. But I believe that many things like this directive now, when will it happen? Is it about wanting to do? We know what we want to do. We know what we should do. But when are we going to do it? We don't need prevarication. People are suffering. People are hungry. A lot of Nigerians are complaining. So
now, Mr. Sanya, I think let's also take a look at another aim of this particular directive. The president said he wants to unlock resources for growth. Don't you think that a lot of money is hanging here and there, and this directive will really help us to bring them out?
Yes, see, it's not that a lot of money. Humongous amounts of money are hiding here and there. If I have time, maybe on another program, I'm going to go back to my archive and try and do some calculation and see how much these government-owned enterprises and parastatals are owing the Federation account. You won't believe it. It is enough to fund our budget for 2 years. And yet, people have taken it away. They have different accounts. They just spend money anyhow. It's a statutory. I think before they said it should be 20% of whatever remains that you should bring. But people just spend it because of the air of impunity that surrounds this country. You see, once people are employed or appointed into offices, they just do whatever they like. So, to answer your question directly, I agree with the president. I agree that if this directive is carried out faithfully and truthfully, a lot of money will be unlocked that will help the government to fund the budget, because we really need to fund this budget. Our budget is minimal. It is very small. Even the 54 trillion naira that we are talking about for 2025, which has not even been implemented yet, is still small when you consider the dollar equivalent. It is still very small for a country of 230 million, where over 130 million are in poverty. It is too small. It is meager. It is insufficient. So we need to unlock resources. We need money. We need to bring out the federal government fund wherever they are hidden. so that it will be to the benefit of everybody.
Exactly. Now let's now take a look at some of the agencies that the president was very specific about. First is the NNPC. The president said the NNPC 30% management and 30% for exploration, frontier exploration, they have to be reassessed. Mr. Sanya, is it not the time for all that the president is taking a look at how to deal with the sacred cow that NNPC is known for?
Yeah, but it is not the fault of NNPC. It's not the fault of anybody. It's the system. It's the fault of the system. For instance, how will the National Assembly go and legislate that the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited should withhold 60% of its profit? For what? So if you are withholding 60% of your profit every year for reinvestment, so what will be the benefit of your investors? Yeah, what will investors benefit? Because it's like during the last time, how many months ago, when First Bank declared over 500 billion naira after-tax profit,
exactly,
and then they were telling investors that they won't give dividend because they wanted to recapitalize. So if you are spending 500 billion naira to recapitalize, how much capitalization? Are you coming from zero? You are not coming from zero. So it's like that. NNPC, the National Assembly, you see, the problem we have in this country is that people enact themselves into laws. People think that they will be there forever. So whenever they are making laws, they believe that they are the ones who will continue to benefit. And that's part of the political problem that we have in Nigeria. So when such people eventually leave office, they now are angry because they realize that other people are not benefiting from the humongous corruption that they were benefiting from. So they now realize that they have lost. Other people are benefiting, and that's how they will now start to shout that the current occupiers of the office are engaging in corruption. How did it come about? How will the National Assembly, for heaven's sake, say that a corporation, NNPC, should take 60% every year in perpetuity for reinvestment? If we take 60, so frontier, what is frontier basin? Frontier basin is all these small oil wells that this is onshore. You know, these ones that have always been there, that is not difficult to go and explore. And then why should NNPC retain that? Is NNPC working alone? Is there any field that NNPC is drilling alone? NNPC is always working with partners now,
exactly,
with JV partners. So why do you need 60% every year in perpetuity to continue to develop oil wells or to develop oil basins, when everybody, all the big players are already onshore? They are on the deep sea now, where they are bringing out heavy crude. So the point is, those people who enacted that law, you see, they felt that they were going to be the beneficiaries. They benefited for some time. Unfortunately, for many of them, you know, because of the high turnover that we have in our legislature, before the law even came into effect, they have already been voted out.
Exactly.
So it is other people that are benefiting now. Those who are benefiting right now, we also want to fight to retain it until they leave the scene. And once they leave the scene, they will not be disturbing our political space, shouting about corruption, shouting about what is not supposed to happen. That's the problem.
Exactly.
It doesn't make sense at all.
Now let's also look at another agency that is quite very cool when it comes to revenue for the federal government of Nigeria. Nigerian Port Authority. We have asked similar issues from minister to minister. The chairman or the MD of the NPA having to quarrel over revenue. So, Mr. Sanya, with this directive now, will it shape NPA into much area whereby the federal government can really take lead in collecting the revenue that is meant for it?
One thing that is good, one good thing, is that the recently signed, what is it now? This tax law, tax
bill. Yes.
The new tax laws, those tax laws, that tax reform laws, are already taking care of those ones. Once they start operation in December, once those laws go into operation in January 2026 that's taking care of it, because all the revenues will now be collected by a single agency. You remember, even at NPA will just be in charge of administration. The collection will be done by FIRS, which will be called a new name.
Exactly. Nigeria Revenue Service.
So Nigerian Tax Authority or something.
Nigeria Revenue Service.
So that new body will now be in charge of revenue collection for the federal government. Those either custom or NNPC, the subsidiaries, or former DPRA, or all of them, the MASA, MPA, all of them. It is that new body that will be in charge of collection. And I think it makes sense so that it will be in one single pool, and then monitoring will be easier.
Interesting. But before I let you go and before I round up this particular section, the custom also will need to follow this directive. But what do you think about the custom, who have targeted trillions upon trillions for the year 2025? But with the directive, do you see anything happening in their functionality or operation at this point in time?
Yes. I think custom will continue to do its work. All these agencies that we are talking about, even this new directive, none of them will come into effect. It will soon, because what the president has directed as usual is that a committee headed by Minister Sanya Adedokun to go and look at it and see what they are going to do. And then, current committees work in Nigeria. So they will go and work, and although the recent departure from the north was this young man who headed the tax reform committee.
Yes,
they work very effectively and efficiently, and within 2 years they have delivered, and we already have those new laws in place. But this 1 year those thing, it's not going to be immediate. And that committee, a committee will work, and then they will submit their report to another committee that will look at it. And that other committee will also now submit their reports to the Federal Executive Council, and the Federal Executive Council will also look at it. For instance, those ones concerning Federal Revenue Service, Nigeria Customs, and those other ones will go to effect immediately, because they are even illegal in the first place. If you ask me, they are illegal because they are not backed by any force of law. But that one concerning the NNPC, the Nigerian Petroleum Company Limited, you have to go back to the National Assembly, and you know how it works. The NNPC people will go and lobby the National Assembly so that they will not pass the law, and then those ones will ask for their own, and then the president will also have to lobby the National Assembly, and it will go on and on and on. I hope that we can have anything concerning that NNPC own before the end of 2027. I doubt it very much. But concerning that of NCC, NURPC, NNDPRA, Ports Authority, Nigerian Customs, FIRS, those ones can go into effect immediately.
Very interesting. But before I let you go, finally, Mr. Sanya, the Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of the Economy said something. He said this review and reassessment is to also help us to be able to dismantle economy distortion channels. I don't know what you understand by that, but I know it is talking about areas of corruption and areas of leakages. But what do you make of this statement from Mr. Wale Edun?
Yeah, there are distortions, no doubt, in this economy. It may not even be about corruption alone. It can be about coordination. For instance, the agencies are always working at cross purposes. We are in the past, we have seen the Ministry of Agri, for instance, constructing mosques in Borno State. We have seen it. We have seen all manner of things. There are no coordination. Everybody is just doing whatever they like, so that they can just fleece the economy, or they can be seen to be working. But with this now, if at the end of the day, the federal government is able, or President Tinubu is able to get this one right, yeah, I agree that it is the way to go, and it will help all of us as a country.
Very interesting. Mr. Sanya, thank you for coming on the show, and your submission are quite instructive at this point in time, talking about the acceptance of this directive and also giving support to this directive by the president, particularly as many of us have talked about the aspect of government revenue, leakages and corruption in the government circle. But thank you for coming on the show today, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
All right. So enjoy the rest of your day, sir.
You too. Thank you.